Wild animals don't have visceral fat, and if we copy nature, we can eliminate disease. That's the claim in a viral video featuring Dr. Sean O'Mara. Let's test it with actual evidence. Some basic advice in that video is fine. Move more. Eat fewer ultra-processed foods. Manage stress. But when someone makes specific medical claims and recommends protocols, we need data, not slogans. First claim: wild animals don't have visceral fat. That is wrong. Mammals, including wild ones, do have visceral fat. It cushions organs, stores energy, and has hormonal roles. Risk comes from excess, not existence. And even if wild animals had zero visceral fat, that would not make it optimal for humans. That's the naturalistic fallacy. Natural does not mean good. Nature also gives infection, injury, parasites, and short lifespans. Most wild mammals die young and never reach the ages when human chronic diseases usually appear. Second claim: we look to nature instead of studies. Observation can inspire a hypothesis. It does not test one. Medicine advances by testing ideas with controls, measurements, and peer review. If you don't quantify, you cannot know if a change is real, how big it is, or whether it lasts. That's why we measure blood pressure to treat hypertension, A1C to manage diabetes, and body composition to track fat loss. Numbers are not the enemy. They are how we tell signal from noise. Third claim: numbers make people's brains dumber. That flips the evidence on its head. Decades of behavioral research show that specific, measurable goals and self-monitoring improve outcomes. Healthcare runs on numbers because numbers let us adjust the plan. If a metric demotivates a patient, that is a communication problem, not proof that measurement is harmful. Saying "don't measure" also makes results impossible to verify. Fourth claim: humans lived without numbers for most of history, so we don't need them. We also lived without vaccines, antibiotics, sanitation, or safe childbirth. Infant mortality was enormous. Average lifespan was short. Modern health span improved because we added science and measurement, not because we avoided them. Fifth claim: billions of animals prove the point. Species are not interchangeable. A deer that lives 4 years in the wild cannot model how a 75-year-old human prevents Alzheimer's. Different species have different diets, lifespans, metabolisms, and disease risks. Casual observation of other animals is not a substitute for human clinical trials. Now, the diet prescription: a living carnivore pattern of mostly meat plus fermented foods to eliminate visceral fat and disease. Here is what human data actually shows. Multiple eating patterns reduce visceral fat when they create a sustained calorie deficit and prioritize whole foods. Mediterranean. Dash. Plant forward with adequate protein. Low-carb approaches for some people. What matters most is sustainability, fiber intake, protein adequacy, and overall energy balance. Long-term, large studies consistently link plant-forward dietary patterns to lower risks of cardiovascular disease, certain cancers, type 2 diabetes, and all-cause mortality. All meat diets may produce short-term weight loss through restriction, but they lack robust long-term safety data, and they contradict the strongest body of evidence we have. The exercise advice: train until you are gasping for air with accessory muscle breathing. In clinical language, that looks like respiratory distress. High-intensity intervals can be great when progressed safely. Evidence-based guidelines recommend 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate to vigorous activity, 2 or more days of resistance training, and brief intervals scaled to your fitness. Pushing untrained people to genuine respiratory distress creates unnecessary risk. Cardiac events in those with undiagnosed conditions, rhabdomyolysis, injury from poor form, and burnout. Challenge yourself appropriately. Don't mimic a medical emergency. The deer anecdote. Hunters say deer near cornfields have more heart fat, so monocrops cause disease. That is unverified storytelling. Animal fat varies with caloric availability, season, age, and reproductive status. To apply an observation like that to humans, you would need controlled sampling, tissue analysis, and peer-reviewed research. Anecdotes are not evidence. So what does good evidence say about reducing visceral fat? Sustain a modest calorie deficit with a pattern you can live with. Emphasize minimally processed foods, high fiber, adequate protein, and healthy fats. Do regular physical activity. Aerobic training and resistance training both matter. Include some intervals if you enjoy them and build up gradually. Sleep 7 to 9 hours. Manage stress. Limit alcohol. Don't smoke. These are the levers that repeatedly show up in randomized trials and long-term cohort studies. Notice what is not required. Rejecting scientific studies. Avoiding measurement. Eating only meat. Modeling your life on wild animals. Here are the red flags to watch for in any health video. Openly dismissing scientific studies. Calling measurement harmful. Assuming natural equals optimal. Replacing human trials with animal anecdotes. Making claims you cannot verify because you shouldn't measure. Bottom line, take inspiration from nature for broad habits. Get sunlight, move your body, eat real food, connect with people, sleep. Those are solid principles. But do not replace science with slogans. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. We watched animals is not extraordinary evidence. This video critiques publicly made claims for education and fair comment. It is about the arguments and the data, not the person. If you want the sources behind each point, check the description. If this helped you think more clearly about visceral fat and natural living claims, tap like, share it with a friend, and subscribe to QuickByte Science for more evidence-based breakdowns. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and don't let nature metaphors replace actual science.